From a customer's perspective now, so I have a property and I come to Just Fence and be like, hey, help me figure out how I can secure my property.
Yeah.
So how would that conversation be like? What all you guys offer?
Yeah.
What should I know about this industry and how should I make my decision?
Yeah. So there are different types of properties. So let's take the example of, let's say, a plain plot, and then maybe you can go to the other types of property. Now let's say you own a plot of fencing in Bangalore. Now in your plot, in many properties, like when you have bought it, normally the corners of a property are marked. So they are, let's say, small cornerstones which are kind of put. So whenever you want to fence your property, like, you just contact us. You may not even be in Bangalore. You may be in let's say in UK, or you could be in Africa or wherever. So you can let us know that you can send us the location of your property. Our team goes there, we identify the property. If the cornerstones are present, then you don't even have to do anything. Like, our team takes care of everything. Like, we would of course give an estimate and things of this sort. And if it's meeting your budget and you give us the go ahead, so we would fence it, and while sitting at the comfort of your home, the property would get fenced. Now the other scenario is, let's say, where the cornerstones etc. are not present, like it's been, let's say, 20 years since you bought it and now we don't really know what's kind of happening. So we can kind of connect to surveyors who would do the finding of the property, and they would normally liaise with, say, government surveyor, bring in kind of this thing. And once the corners are kind of defined, then we kind of step into the picture. So that's with regards to, let's say, the plot fencing. Then there are other segments, for example, the agricultural fencing, like where you want to kind of, you have a 1 acre, 2 acre, you're planning to build a farmhouse, or you're planning to do a fencing around that. So we have a very consultative approach where we first find out the property, what is the objective. Like, we ask, is it a plain land or it's an agricultural land? If it's an agricultural land, what is it that you're planning to cultivate? The reason we ask this is, now let's say if you're doing a teak wood or a sandalwood cultivation, you need to have a more secure fencing. Like, the problems what you would face would be different, because human trespassing can also happen, human intrusion can happen. Or if, let's say, you're doing cash crops, let's say like maize or like or something of that sort, so corn or something. So there you don't necessarily need to go for a very expensive fencing.
Okay.
And also, what are the other types of animals in the vicinity? Like, do domestic animals come into the property, or are there wild animals? So some are in elephant corridors, some are in, let's say, there is wild boar problem is there. In some places you have wildcats kind of coming in. So we have a solution for literally everything, right from your snakes to monkeys to wild boars to elephants to nilgai. You name the problem, we have a solution around it.
Okay.
And someone who has been seeing these products from a childhood, the mesh products, so pretty much we have, and we also have some smart solutions, like which give you an alert in case there is an intrusion which is happening in the property.
Interesting. So how does that work, the smart solution part?
So it is it's nothing but an IoT based solution. So it's added onto the fence. So in case there's an intrusion, you would get an alert. So the alert could be on your phone, or it could be
you can notify the local authorities.
Exactly.
Or something you can do.
Exactly. Or like if you have someone who's staying close by the property, you can do something about it. In case you have a CCTV in your camera, we can even like connect the fence to the camera, so that you can have a look at exactly what is happening.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so let's go a little bit more into the kinds of fencing and all that. So, in terms of the project which you've already delivered, which has been the most challenging project from a perspective of the amount of security they needed.
Okay. So there have been some of the projects that we do are extremely complex and complicated, because some of them are like on the forest fringes.
Correct.
So you have all kinds of problems, let's say, right from wild animals to scorpions to snakes, kind of this thing. So there have been a lot of challenging projects, but there was one in particular that we did in Maharashtra. This was near Karjat. Okay. So this was an international school coming up, and again this was an ancestral property of the promoters, and then they wanted to convert it into a residential school. So normally in very remote locations, like when such a large scale development comes, so you're looked as an outsider. So there were a lot of challenges in that particular property with the villagers over there who were not allowing to kind of work. And second was that the property was also on a hill. So it was a very complex terrain, and so we had to really come up with a lot of hybrid solutions, and we had to like it was a complex project. It took us a little bit of a time also to kind of do it because of the constant interruptions by the locals who would like agitate, or they would do dharna. We will not allow this to happen, because from a villager's point of view, they were used to that property. They used to walk like every day up and down. They used to use that property, and now one day suddenly
It's
blocked. So it takes some time for them to also accept. So those were some
Not from that perspective.
Okay.
I'm asking from the perspective of the amount of security they wanted.
Okay.
You got what I'm trying to say? What's the extreme level of fencing you can do? So for me, for example, so I'll be very honest with you. Where I was initially exposed to fencing was never, in an actual place. It was in this game which I really love to play. It's called Age of Empires. And in
I used to play that as well.
I'm 100% sure. And in Age of Empires, you would have wooden fences.
Yeah.
And then as you upgrade your tech, your fences would get to a stage where, I mean, in Age of Empires, that's a really nice game where you would have archers in the fence. You would have something like that. So in your case, of course, this question came from that perspective, that what was the maximum stretch to which, what's the maximum level of security you have done till now?
Okay, so what we have done is in some locations, so what many a times we do is, like, once we are involved in a property, we do a complete analysis, and we also many times suggest a hybrid solution. Let's say, for example, if you are having some activity happening inside, what we suggest is many times to have a privacy barrier. So we do these precast walls.
Okay.
So we have had those precast walls coming in. On top of that, we've had an electric fence.
Oh wow.
So an electric fence, which is again IoT enabled. So in case there's any intrusion, you would get an alert of sorts. So we have done that. So that was one project. Another very interesting project which we did was like a multi-species fencing. So that they had a elephant problem, they had a wild boar problem. They used to have wildcats also kind of coming in.
Wow.
So and elephants are very interesting from a fence point of view, because if you put a regular fence, they would just kick it. and they're so smart. If you put a regular electric fence, what they would do is they would uproot a tree and throw it on the fence.
Oh my god.
They're so smart.
Okay.
And so we had to come up with a very interesting solution. So this was a fence which was inclined.
Okay.
So if an elephant comes, they do not get access to the. So it's like, sorry, the elephant would come from here. They would not get access to the base of the post. And the water content in an elephant's body is a lot. It's almost like 90%. So when there's electricity passing through, they are able to sense it. So they used to just walk around the property, and they never used to get a weak area. So they would just go around and they would kind of go. So this was a multi-species fencing, and before this fence was put, the landowner used to grow exotic fruits. And they used to get rummaged and plumaged by all these animals and things of that sort, and he never even had one season when he had like a good yield because of the damage by the animals. But after this multi-species fencing, it's been almost 3.5-4 years since we have implemented it. It's still functioning quite well, and like today, like his yield is so good, and he's so grateful for that fence.
Interesting. So that was like, okay, elephants, I guess, would be your worst enemy.
So it's not an enemy as such, it's just that end of the day, they also want food. So it's all about managing the human-elephant conflict and kind of ensuring that. Yeah.
For any homeowner who is, or anyone who's looking to buy a land and build a home over there, or do a farmhouse or something like that, what's the bare minimum? Like, is it like you have to get this done? Like, it is for your own good. What's the bare minimum would you recommend for anyone?
Okay, so the basic thing, what is important is key. So one more reason why people don't fence or secure their properties, they think is from a cost angle. Ki, matlab, like I have to my life is going on, I suddenly have to park some funds and kind of do it. So what we suggest is, particularly for the plots, go for the most cost effective, the most cheapest fencing which is out there, which is nothing but, let's say you have stone pillars and then you put, let's say, something called as the fencing wire, which is the barbed wires. So that is something very, very low cost, very fast to do. And what you can do is you can concrete the pillars. So the advantage of concreting a pillar is that nobody can move those poles. And the second thing is, let's say worst case scenario, somebody even tries to damage it, you would still have that patch of concrete. So at least your boundaries are kind of secure. So that is the bare minimum.
Which any property owner should do, according to you.
At least that, like for a starting, it again depends on the objective. If you're not planning to do any construction or any agriculture, then just get at least that basic thing done. Later on, like, you can look at other things. Let's say if you're planning to do a construction, you can maybe go for a precast wall, a prefabricated wall, so that you don't have to invest on the compound wall again. Mm-hmm. So let's say after 2 years you're planning to do a construction, so you have that and you can use the same wall, and then you can have your construction happening inside.
Interesting. Okay. So according to you, at least barbed wire fencing, someone should get done.
Yeah.
From a like security perspective, from a peace of mind, anti-encroachment perspective.
Yes. Which is something very, very basic.
What are some